Hey there, hockey fans. We have a special episode as we are in the men's Frozen Four week. That means, at least for Locked On Kraken, we've got Maddie Beniers, our prospect, coming up. But I am joined by the amazing Jay Foster from Locked On Blue Jackets. So while we are going to talk about the Denver Michigan matchup, pretty safe to say we'll have more things to say about Michigan. All that's coming up on this Squadcast episode.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
As always, thank you for making either Locked On Blue Jackets or Locked On Kraken your first listen of the day. I am the Locked On Kraken host, Erica Lindsay Ayala. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, I am joined by Jay Foster. Jay, it's been a while since we've done one of these crossovers.
Yeah, it has. I feel like the Kraken and the Blue Jackets played each other like super early in the season, and then so we recorded then, and then obviously they only play each other twice a season. But yeah, it is. I'm always happy to be on Locked On Kraken. Always fun to chat.
Yes, indeed. And we are going to be on the same side this time around because we're going to talk about that college hockey. We're talking about the men's Frozen Four, and the first semifinal matchup is against Denver and Michigan. So we're going to get to talk about some prospects. So how we'll break this down is we're going to talk about Denver first, how they got there, that being to the Frozen Four. That will be in Boston, Massachusetts at TD Center. Is that what it's called? TD Garden. There we go. It will be at TD Garden, you know, the TD building in Boston where the Bruins play. And so it'll be at TD Garden. We're going to talk about Denver first, then we'll get into Michigan. And then in the final segment, we'll have a chance to really get into our prospects for the Kraken and the Blue Jackets. All right, so let's start with Denver. This Denver team was able to make their way through by just some amazing offensive play. The Denver Pioneers, they won the West Regional. It's their 12th trip to an NCAA championship. And again, they will face the Wolverines. These are two number one seeds on either side of their bracket. So it's going to be a pretty good game. Jay, we've got Bobby Brink, Magnus Corona, Ryan Barrow, like all pretty good scores for this Denver team. Their overall record is 29-9-1. Their record on a neutral site is 2-1. So I think, you know, this is going to be a pretty good matchup for the Michigan Wolverines. What, if anything, do you know about this Denver team?
So I'm gonna be totally honest. Denver is not the Blue Jackets don't have any prospects at the University of Denver, and I can only follow so many prospects at a time. But Denver, I feel like, is one of those teams that's always kind of just sneaky good. I always forget about them, and then I'm like, oh right, Denver. Like you say, they lost 10 games all season, which is just bonkers. And you know, it's Denver's a fun team to watch. You know, they've got some really good players. I personally am both excited and worried about Bobby Brink. Because he is he's electric on the ice. He's just so much fun all the time.
Yeah, I mean, looking at some of these numbers, and I'll pop these up on screen for everyone. But Bobby Brink has 56 points on the season, also leads the team in assists with 42. Power play points, Bobby Brink up there along with Savoy. But I mean, is in that Hobie Baker conversation for good reason. And even what I thought was really interesting, and it's like, you know, Gabe recognized Gabe, but the Michigan game preview has, I'm going to read it, like, Head coach Dave Carlisle's team, led by forward Bobby Brink, Baker hat trick, boasts the top scoring offense in the nation at a 4.28 goals per game to earn a share of the NCHC regular season title. Denver forward core is highlighted by Brink, who paces the nation with 42 assists. We just talked about that, 52 points, and stands a good chance of winning the Hobie. Like, it's good when there are multiple, finalists also on Michigan, and they have no choice but to give Brink some shout out and some shine.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there could be 4 to 6 guys on Michigan that could have had the fight, who could have been finalists for the Hobie Baker. So, for them to come in and be like, yeah, no, Bobby Brink's cool as hell is. If I was Bobby Brink, I would feel pretty good about myself hearing that.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, honestly, if you're the Pioneers, you're feeling pretty good. They are 4-1 in their last 5, 7-3 in their last 10. They average about 37 shots per game. Shots against, they face about 24 shots. They score about 4 goals a game. They allow about 2 goals a game. And I think that's going to be interesting because we've seen some really high scoring affairs for Michigan. We've also seen them ring up the score and have teams kind of slowly come back in the third. So again, we're going to talk about Michigan a little bit in the next segment. But I get from these stats that, this is a Denver team that obviously can score, but I think what's kind of hidden in those stats for them is that they also are pretty disciplined on defense.
Yeah, for sure. Like, so the thing about, I feel like everyone always gets super hyped up about like NCAA stats because they are kind of inflated as opposed to the NHL,
Yeah.
And like, I think a lot about Anna Renee Debian, who has like a career goals against average of like quarter of a goal or 3/4 of a goal. So her career goals against average is like 0.75 or something stupid, So I always feel like NCAA stats are kind of inflated, but still to know that you're going into a game outscoring on average 2-1. If you're scoring 4 goals a game and only allowing 2 goals a game, they're winning every game 4-2, which is just again bonkers. Like the NCAA is inflated, but it's not
Yeah.
like they're going out there and playing bad teams. Is the thing,
No.
they just beat. Oh gosh, was it University of North Dakota to
They beat North Dakota and the Notre
Minnesota
Dame,
Duluth? Excuse me,
and they had they had good
UMD,
wins.
not UND.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and they're a good team,
Yeah.
So it's not like they're out here like curb stomping Division 3 teams. They're out here beating good teams and beating them solidly. So I think this could be a bit of a shock for Michigan.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good matchup again on either side of the bracket. They come in as the number 1 seed, but Denver, ranks right behind Michigan as the number 3 team in the country. That's based on the USCHO poll as well as USA Today / USA Hockey Magazine poll. So we're seeing again that they're right there in the mix. Who's ahead of them? Again, Michigan right there. But also Minnesota State. And that's who I was thinking about, who defeated Notre Dame. And Notre Dame had a better record against Michigan in the regular season. That's what I was thinking about. So you've got Minnesota State, Michigan, Denver, Minnesota, the top 4 teams in the nation, according to the NCAA polls. All 4 of them are going to be at TD Garden. Got it right this time.
I don't know. I think we should change it to TD Arena. I like that better.
Yeah, right. Like, what are we picking? Roses? I don't know what's going on. Nevertheless, well, that's a little bit about Denver, the opponent of Michigan. So Jay and I are going to break down what we have seen from Michigan this season. We talked a little bit about that, but we'll dive deeper coming up next on this crossover episode, of Locked On Kraken and Locked On Blue Jackets. But right now, I want to tell you about HelloFresh. And I can speak from experience, I'm actually glad that, Jay, this is a sponsor now, because as someone who travels a lot, I don't always have time to go shopping. So the great thing is that I can go on to the HelloFresh website. They have fit and wholesome recipes. They have other recipes that are for, maybe you're a little bit more of a picky eater, or you have certain dietary restrictions. You can customize all of that. They also give you options, though. Sometimes I don't really want to think about it. And so I love that there's a little bit of a mix and match there. And, you get these weekly meals, and you get to pick how many meals you want for how many people. And then all you got to do is pop everything in your fridge and make the meals that you are that are calling for you on that night. You can also skip meals. Like, if I know I'm going to be out of town, I might skip a week of meals. That way the food doesn't go bad. And so I really loved this. So what we want to do is have our listeners go to HelloFresh.com/locked16. And if you use that promo code locked16, you will get up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/locked16, and use the promo code locked16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. I hope you enjoy as much as I have. Love that. And where the game starts for us is, of course, looking at that Michigan bench. Jay from Locked On Blue Jackets. I am Erica from Locked On Kraken. And we are previewing the first semifinal of the 2022 Men's Frozen Four, which will be at TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. And it will face or I should say, it will feature the Denver Pioneers versus the Michigan Wolverines. Jay, let me come to you first here. What has impressed you from Michigan, and particularly the Blue Jackets prospect on Michigan?
Yeah, I think I knew, logically, I knew that Michigan was going to be good going into this season. Obviously, because it's they have 4 of the top 5 first round picks, or they drafted, I believe, prospects from the University of Michigan were drafted 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th overall, especially with Ken Johnson, who 5th overall by the Blue Jackets. Obviously, Kraken prospect Matty Beniers drafted 2nd overall by the Kraken. And, that's as well. You haven't even looked at Owen Power, drafted 1st overall. Luke Hughes, drafted 4th overall. They've got guys returning last year, like a guy that's really impressed me this season that maybe hasn't had as much hype as those guys, Thomas Bordelot, who is a San Jose Sharks prospect. He has had a really, really great season. There's just, I feel like everyone on Michigan is a game changer. Even, you look at the guys that are seniors that don't have the NHL contracts, the guys that are, coming back for their 5th year, the overagers, even those guys, and I think it was, I can't remember which game it was, but there was a game in the championship run where all of the goals were scored by the bottom 6 or the bottom pairing defenseman, and that's what Michigan is as a team. And I don't know if it's because, and Erica, you will be able to relate to this. I don't know if it's because the Blue Jackets have been bad this season, but it's so fun to watch a winning team.
Yes, you are absolutely right. I can very much so relate to that. I think in our DM group, I was like, we've been locked on Matty Beniers for months now. But it's not only that. This Michigan squad, they had to be able to withstand the just the record and the pace that they had set, because not only are there a lot of prospects, NHL prospects, but there were a lot of Olympians also that were away. So you mentioned Owen Power, obviously Matty Beniers, and that it can impact a lineup when you have some of that leadership, some of that top talent. But to your point about some of the bottom 6 being able to score, it's just kind of that next player up mentality, which I think has been so exciting. I think when you hear what's happening around the Michigan camp, it's very exciting when you have some of those prospects, as you mentioned. You've got Kent Johnson, you've got obviously Matty Beniers, but thinking about also Luke Hughes. But I think what also is interesting is that if you talk to people in Michigan, they are always talking about their senior class and the senior class that has really been able to see this team through, get them to a place. I mean, Michigan is one of those teams in NCAA men's hockey that they have they're like getting close to 40 NCAA appearances, and they have a really nice handful of championships as well. So there's like a pedigree, right? When you play for this type of program. That being said, things have changed. The tide has turned, and Michigan is hoping that they can get back into the fold. And so you have to give credit to some of the seniors that you have here. I think another thing that goes overlooked, maybe a la sometimes what we have seen with, like, the Grant Fuhr version of the Oilers, is the goaltending. Eric Portillo has been really good as a sophomore for this Michigan team.
Yeah, I forget that he's only a sophomore. Like he's been phenomenal this season, and Locked On Blue Jackets listeners will know, goalie friendly show. As a goalie, I will always talk about goaltending. There, the position that I always pay attention to first. If I'm watching a new team, I'm like, right, who's the goaltender? What's he like? Portillo is going to be, providing that Buffalo figures out their whole situation of how to develop players and stuff. Between Portillo and Owen Power, like, they could be building something special in Buffalo, and there's a lot of focus going on Owen Power, rightfully so. Watching him at Michigan, watching him in the World Juniors for like the 2 games before it got cancelled, watching him at the Olympics, like that is a special player, and he's not. I think it's very easy to be like, oh well, he's no Connor McDavid, so clearly he's not a generational talent. Like, he's still, rightfully so, the first overall pick. He's going to be a top player in this league, but I think credit has to go to Portillo for the way this team has played. And I think something else interesting is, especially in hockey, it's so rare for the best team to win. Because it's such a weird sport, like bounces, and sometimes a goalie just has a game. Sometimes a forward is like, well, I'm going to score 8 points just because, and so going into this championship right now is like, Michigan has all of the right pieces to be the Frozen Four champion, but it's so rare that the best team actually wins that I kind of tempered my expectations. And now that they've made it to the top 4, I'm like, are they going to do the thing? Like, and I do genuinely, I don't want to jinx it, but I think that they're on the verge of doing something really special with this group of just powerhouse players.
Yeah, I want to pull this up here. We've got some stats again coming from the game notes, and we talked about Denver. We talked about what it's looking like for that Hobie Baker race, and you look that they have the best offense in this matchup. Not only in this matchup, but they're ranked first overall. But defensively, as far as scoring at least, I think this is where Michigan can really pull ahead. You've mentioned it before. We've both talked about it, how they can get scoring from their defensemen, and I think that's going to be critical. The scoring margin, you also see they're pretty well matched here. Now, unlike some USA hockey coaches, I personally do take stock in special teams. And if you look at these numbers, it is Michigan with the advantage both on the power play and the penalty kill, or the power kill, depending on how you feel about it. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. That being said, we have to remember this is college hockey, just like any other college sport. Sometimes the score gets rung up because it's such a fast pace, such a quick moving game. And it lends itself to mistakes because of its pace, but also because these are young guys. And I do think Michigan can sometimes fall into that, where they're so far ahead, or they're kind of really in the zone, maybe for the first or second period, and then they can drift off a little bit. They can't afford to do that against Denver.
No, Denver will make them pay. They've kind of gotten away with it so far. I absolutely agree. There is that kind of, oh well, we're like, we have a 4-goal lead, so we can just kind of chill for the third period, and like that doesn't like that might work against some teams. It's not going to work against a team like Denver. They have to if they. I don't know that they will kind of go out and get a huge lead immediately because, as we've mentioned, Denver is also an incredibly gifted team offensively. But if they somehow, it's 4-1 or 5-1 going into the third period, then they have to keep going. They can't sit on that lead because I think Denver is a team that will make them pay, and we've seen it almost happen before. I can't remember who they were playing, but they it was it was
Yeah, I
4
mean, they
nothing or
had
5-1 or something, and then the game
yeah,
ended, like
exactly.
5-4.
Yep, exactly. That happened twice in the regional, actually, to Michigan. I think the Quinnipiac game not as close, but I mean, you saw that in the regional leading up to this, a team that everyone is watching, not just because of the prospects, but because of how they've been able to play, because of the storied history. I just want to pull this up again. I couldn't remember the numbers straight off the dome, but both of these teams over 30 NCAA tournament appearances. But like I said, Michigan nearly at 40 appearances, 26 Frozen Four appearances, and 9 championships, 30 conference championships. I mean, almost 100 All Americans. And both sides have 2 Hobie Baker winners looking to see what they can do about that this year. So these are not, I think in the college game, the pedigree really does matter. How often has or not the franchise, how often has the program been there, and why? Because it becomes almost this championship culture that's created. And I know Maddie Beniers talked a lot about that. Everything, he wasn't even supposed to go to Michigan. He was going to go to Harvard, and that got switched up because he decommitted because the Ivy Leagues did not compete in that first season with COVID. And now he has a chance at a national championship. As alluring as the NHL is, a lot of these guys on Michigan in particular really wanted an opportunity to get to the Frozen Four, but they have at least one more win to really get to where they want to be. But arguably, it's 2 for Michigan. I think they have a chance, but I'd like to see the discipline kick in a little bit more.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think that's something that I've been thinking about a lot, is that specifically Owen Power got a lot of criticism, I guess is the word, for going back to Michigan, for not going straight into the NHL.
We're not going to Buffalo? What?
Yeah, and people were like, I can't believe he's going back. He's the first overall pick to do this in a million years. And I'm like, okay, but here's the thing. Do you want to play for a truly terrible Buffalo team and every game sucks and you lose all of your confidence, or do you want to go and play on arguably one of the most stacked NCAA men's hockey teams in a very, very long time? And it's the same for Matty Beniers. Probably could have made the NHL, probably could have made the Kraken, but he decided, no, I'm going to go back to Michigan. I'm going to play on this stacked team. I'm going to learn how to win. And that's something that we've seen before in Columbus. Zach Werenski could have gone pro a year earlier than he did, but he stayed at Michigan for that chance to, be part of that winning culture. Then he came to Columbus. He joined the Cleveland Monsters, the Lake Erie Monsters at the time. They ran roughshod over everyone, ended up winning the Calder Cup by it was a sizable margin. And then he came to Columbus, and you learn how to win playing on good teams.
Yes.
I don't know that any of these, so Owen Power, Buffalo, terrible. Matty Beniers, Seattle, not a great first season.
Not great.
Luke Hughes, New Jersey, looked like they were putting it together for a minute, but have kind of fallen off.
And then did the New Jersey thing, yeah.
Kind of done the same thing. They had a really strong start to the season and have now fallen off a cliff, and I think they've lost 7 in a row. I don't blame any of those guys for being like, you know what, I'm gonna play at Michigan and bring this Frozen Four championship home and take advantage of this winning team, this winning culture. I think it's going to be a huge confidence boost, and I think we're going to see the dividends of that next season when they do go to the NHL.
I love that. I love that. And also, again, we alluded to it before, but also some of them got Olympic experience, as well as Nate Smith, who will be in the other matchup. But, I think that is really an important point, that if you want these top prospects to be at their best, because they're going to teams that need them, getting those reps and getting that experience is critically important. You mentioned Anne Renee Debian. It's not the same on the women's side, where you're pretty much expecting that your recruits are going to be there for 4 years and maybe then some if they get pulled out for the Olympics and they continue their eligibility. It's becoming more prevalent, I guess, even in hockey, to have some of these players just play a handful of seasons. Will that change with things like NIL? I mean, with NHL money, perhaps it's not, NFL money, it's not NBA money. I don't know. I think though those conversations are going to be really, really interesting. But either way, we get to see some prospects from our respective teams going up in the Frozen Four championship, as you mentioned, the men's Frozen Four in Boston. It gives us something exciting to talk about for a while. We haven't had that. I mean, the Kraken tried to do a little something, something there after the trade deadline, which I respect. But how many times can I talk about who's your goalie before the bit gets tired?
God, too real, too real.
So we're so thankful for some college hockey. But coming up next, we're going to speak specifically about our prospects and maybe some predictions. In this case, what we think Michigan is going to have to do to win out. But right now, let me tell you about Shady Rays, an independent sunglass company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is that Shady Rays has an insane protection program. I don't know about you, Jay, but I can be pretty brutal on all of my stuff. So, including that lost and broken protection for every pair. I literally was talking offline how I just misplaced a pair of sunglasses. So this is crucial if you're anything like me and are just a little bit absent-minded on a regular basis. So if you go through that program, they'll send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened, no question asked. So go give them a try. And if you don't love them, you will pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners here on the Locked On podcast, Locked On NHL network, I should say, you will get to use the promo code Locked On and head to shadyrays.com. That will give you 50% off 2 or more pair of polarized sunglasses. That's code Locked On for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. I might have to get in on that deal because I am sunglassless at the moment. But also, as I'm getting ready to go to Boston, I don't know if I mentioned this, but for our Locked On Blue Jackets fans, I will be in Boston covering our prospects. And so one thing that is important when you're on the road is to make sure you're not hangry. And a great way to do that is by packing up some Built Bar. Jay, I know like the puffs are here. It's a protein-infused marshmallow. Like what? What are we even talking about? Like that's delicious. Like the churro flavor has been one of my favorites. I don't know about you, Jay, but I also love anything chocolate. So the double chocolate protein bar is amazing for me. But these bars, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Whereas your regular candy bar, your regular candy bar, you're looking at 140 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Jay, do you have a favorite Built Bar flavor? What's your flavor?
Oh man, so I also am a big fan of the Built Puffs. I really like the banana cream pie flavor, but there is a brand new flavor. The brownie batter puffs have just been released into the world, and I haven't tried them yet, but they sound good as hell.
That sounds amazing. So I know what I'm going to do right after we stop recording. It's head to built.com. I'm going to use promo code LOCKED15. So I will get 15% off the new brownie flavor. That sounds amazing because the cookie dough flavor was out a few months ago and I really regretted not ordering another batch. So head over to built.com. Again, use that promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your next order of Built Bars. As I like to say, happy snacking. All right, folks, we're coming around the bend here. I want to remind you, though, if you want updates, especially for me at the Frozen Four or Jay after and me after either a Blue Jackets or Kraken game, make sure you're checking out Locked On Now. All your experts from around the channel, they'll give you quick hits on the games. And just like everything else on Locked On, it is free and available on YouTube and anywhere you listen to podcasts. So, all right. Let's talk, of course, a little bit more about Michigan. Matty Beniers has been centering that top line for this Michigan team. He had a little bit of time out of the lineup, not just for the Olympics, but a little bit earlier on. I really liked what I see from Matty Beniers. We've talked about it before, I believe, Jay. I guess it was right around the draft, but a lot of comparisons between Matty Beniers and our current general manager, Ron Francis, former player. And you know what? That seems to fit the profile of what the Seattle Kraken want. I'm really curious to see how Matty Beniers fits into the development program of the Seattle Kraken, because again, what we talked about in the last segment, he's got a really great wealth of international experience, not just with the Olympics, but through World Juniors, which will restart again. So we'll have something else to talk about. But also with Michigan. So from your perspective, though, what are you most excited about when you think of the potential that this Michigan team has to make an impact on the Blue Jackets in the future?
Well, I mean, first of all, I got to say, the draft was kind of up in the air. I was so hoping that Matty Beniers was going to fall to fifth. Like logically, I knew that he wasn't, but I was hoping, I was holding out for it. I'm not upset that we ended up with Kent Johnson, especially having seen now basically a full season of him playing at Michigan, and just everyone that I've talked to has said kind of the same thing. And he is going to make people get up out of their seats. I was talking to one prospect guy a while ago, and he basically said that the thing about Kent Johnson is that he thinks he's the main character in everyone's life, which is extremely funny, but also like I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like that's how he plays. He plays like he's the most important person on the ice, and I know that that's kind of sacrilege in this. The name on the front is more important than the name on the back kind of sport. But after so long watching the Blue Jackets kind of basically ice a bunch of interchangeable guys that don't really have personalities, that are not super exciting on the ice, we're kind of seeing a little bit more of that freedom now with Elvis Merzlikins, who is just such a fantastic personality. Vladislav Gavrikov is kind of a more underrated guy, but he has, a Selly that keeps getting played on GIF form on the NHL Twitter. Patrick Laine, you've seen his outfits, you've seen his, his all green 3-piece suit for St. Patrick's Day. He has this. There's something fun about him, and I think Ken Johnson is going to fit into that aspect of the team in terms of having players with personalities. And I think on top of that, that's not even talking about his on ice effect. We drafted him as a center. I don't think he plays center in the NHL. Obviously, he's played on the wing most of this season. He's actually played on Matty Beniers' wing, which that's been a super fun line. I have enjoyed that line immensely. But he's just so good. Like, and I know that's it's the worst kind of analysis. I don't have super fancy words to say. Like, he's just an exciting player. He's a guy that every time he's on the ice, I'm like, oh, something cool's gonna happen. Watch.
Yeah, I think he complements a player like Matty Beniers, who's kind of more of a grind it out, put your head down, hard worker. He's such a sweetheart. Oh my goodness, Matty is, he's not shy. He's definitely a little bit more reserved, as anyone would be when you first meet a stranger, probably, or should be. But he's also a lot of fun. You can see he enjoys his teammates. He can open up and just be such a. You forget sometimes how young these guys are because they are on the national stage, the international stage. But Matty Beniers is a fun guy. I feel like I get reports that he's a fun teammate. So I think those two on a line, and just knowing how Michigan can be, they play a fun, free game. They can also like get in your face and be, boastful about it, a la Kent Johnson. I love that. I mean, I'm here for it. I rather take that than randomly licking people's faces, which apparently was a thing in hockey, and I still don't
It
understand.
sure was.
I just,
It was. We try not to talk about that.
I will never understand that, and I will never not. Anyway, moving on as I head
Moving
to
on.
Boston. Yeah, as I head to Boston. That's probably what was on my mind. But I'm really excited to see what Kent will be, and I'm sure that just knowing what hockey culture is, and we certainly have talked about that before. I hope that this new era of the NHL in particular, it just embraces that. The Kraken have some prospects that way too, and I just want them, like, yeah, talk your mess, young buck, and then go out on the ice and see if you can hang. I think that makes for exciting hockey. So, but all right, let's get to predictions. I think that this has potential to kind of either be a really tight game or a game that just gets completely, just the score balloons, because there's so much offensive talent on the ice. So I think I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to say we're going to get maybe like a 5-3 score. I'm going with Michigan.
Yeah, you just have to, like, it's, and this is no discredit to Denver, who are an amazing team, who have had a fantastic season. I feel like Michigan's gonna get it done. I'm gonna go, because I hate myself and because hockey hates me. I'm gonna go 4-3 Michigan in overtime, because
Ooh.
why wouldn't it go to overtime? That
Why
feels right. But I do think that the game-winning goal, I do think it's going to be a power play goal, because, like you said earlier, those special teams, and that was something that immediately, when you pulled those stats up, immediately I was like, they have an incredible power play. I think second in the NCAA, and their penalty kills no slouch either. So I think Michigan's going to win on the power play with
Love it.
in overtime.
I love it. I love the chaos. I absolutely love the chaos. And this will be the appetizer, though, for Minnesota versus Minnesota State. So
Oh,
I
that's going to be
absolutely
fun.
love that. Yeah, that matchup's going to be good too. And if you're listening over at Locked On Kraken, stay tuned, because we'll have a preview with a roundtable discussion about that matchup as well. But Jay, always a pleasure to have you on. Let's see how things go, and perhaps we can have a celebratory squad cast next week if it goes the way we'd like it to. Either way, of course, we're saying go blue, go Michigan, go prospects, so we have something fun to talk about for the next few days.
It feels super sacrilegious to be like, yes, go blue, go Michigan, because obviously the Blue Jackets are based in Columbus, Ohio, and Ohio
Yes,
State
that's
and
right.
Michigan do not like each other,
Ooh, there's a
to the
clash.
point where just as a little kind of precursor, my best friend went to OSU, and so I would go visit, which is actually how I became a Blue Jackets fan. We were like, hey, let's go to a game. Seems like fun, and we got attached. But I have been on OSU campus during like the weeks before the big Ohio State Michigan football game, and people will go around with like electrical tape and cover up all of the M's on like the signs and the buildings and stuff. So like I've been getting super hyped for Michigan, and then being like, I feel like this is not my exact demographic, but like the Blue Jays have had success with players from Michigan before, so I'm about it. Go blue.
Go blue. Let's do it. Well, again, That game is going to tip off tomorrow, or excuse me, on Thursday. What's today? I have no idea. Whatever. It's going to be Thursday for sure. It's the 7th of April. Who knows where I am, when I am? I don't know. It will be at a 5 p.m. tip off Eastern time for that first semifinal. And then again, it's a Minnesota State versus Minnesota. And that will be also Thursday. The teams will then have the Friday in between, and we will have the remaining two play for all the marbles in the national championship game of the NCAA Men's Frozen Four. But for Jay, your host of Locked On Blue Jackets, my name is Erica Ayala, your host of Locked On Kraken, and just enjoy the hockey. Enjoy all the hockey that is to come, and hopefully, at least one of our teams will get it done, Jay.
Eventually, I have faith in our horrible children.
It's just a young teenager. That's what we say over at Locked On Kraken. They're just a teenage team. Bless their hearts. They know what they got to do, but
they're trying their best. And
they're doing their best. They're doing their best. So we'll squadcast again soon. But thanks so much, Jay. And a reminder that if you enjoyed this one, head over to Locked On Fantasy Hockey. I know that my personal fantasy hockey team for Black Girl Hockey Club was pretty much doomed from the start. That's why you don't do an auto select, folks. But anyway, I hope that you get what you need from the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Show. Host Steele Roden and Flip Livingstone will help you become an expert in your fantasy league. And just like everything else on the Locked On Network, it is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Well, we will see you tomorrow, folks.